Yeah, I'm based out of Bangalore, and today we're going to be talking about some very interesting trends at Microsoft. A lot of these things you probably are aware about. We're going to go a little deeper into some of these areas. I can promise you one thing, you will definitely go back home this evening a lot more happier, a lot more knowledgeable. So that's a promise. We have, I think, the best team from Microsoft today, including some partners. We're going to be presenting. What I want to do is probably give you a little gist of some of the core areas that we're going to present this evening. When you think about Microsoft today, we have our CEO who actually goes and makes statements like, we want to empower every single developer in this universe to go and build applications for any platform or any device. It's a very powerful statement when you think about it. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Let me kind of go a little deeper in terms of what the statement actually means. Most of you are probably aware about Visual Studio as a development tool. And when we think about Visual Studio, it was predominantly used by Microsoft developers. When I say Microsoft developers, people who actually leverage .NET framework and build applications targeting the Microsoft infrastructure in the backend. That's been the use cases in the last, I think, probably 35 to 40 years. A lot of you all might also know that the first product that Microsoft released was not an Office, was not a Windows. It was something called BASIC, which was a developer tool. So at the heart of Microsoft, we care about developers and the development organizations. So that's what Visual Studio was always all about. And today when you think about Visual Studio, there's a variant of Visual Studio which is called Visual Studio Code, which will pretty much work on a Macintosh device or a Linux device. So in a way, we're moving Visual Studio to other platforms as well. So you can actually go build your favorite applications on the device that you're currently using. It need not be a Windows PC, it could be something else as well. So that's a radical shift. The second thing I want to talk about is, from a .NET framework perspective. Again, we have done some very interesting things there. You all know about .NET 4.6, which is the current prevalent version, which is what most people probably are using to build apps as well as to run your applications. When you think about .NET, there's also an open source version of .NET. How many people know that we've actually made .NET open source? I'm so happy to see a lot of these hands getting raised, but it would have probably made me happier if it was a lot more people. There's something called .NET Core, and it's called .NET Core 1 at this point in time, 1.0, and it's available. It is open source, so which means you as an individual contributor can actually download the bits and you can actually go contribute. You can customize, you can put your own wrappers around it. So that's one advantage. The second thing about .NET Core is the fact that this is going to basically sit on non-Microsoft infrastructure as well. So which means you can actually install this .NET Core on any of the distributions of Linux, like some 12 or 13 different popular distributions of Linux, right? So you can actually install it on any of these different Linux platforms, as well as the Mac devices. What does that mean to you as developers or development organizations? It just means that the ASP.NET applications that you're probably building in the future, you have the choice